Joseph.
Hold on, Joe. Hold on, Joe. Hold on. I'll be starting, and I'll come to you. Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the candidate question time for the Disabled Students Officers. My name is Will Hoskin. I'm the representation manager. I'll be hosting the question time for this evening. With us today, we have Joseph Steventon and Sadie Trent, the two candidates for Disabled Students Officers. We'll be going to them shortly, but first of all, we just want to do a quick bit about the format and the rules for those who are here. So the format is going to be a 3-minute opening statement from each candidate. We'll then have any questions from the audience, or we have some that we've been sent in as well. Candidates can have a chance to respond to the other candidates' responses for a minute, and then at the end of it, we'll have a 3-minute closing statement from each candidate. This is scheduled for 1 hour, so hopefully we'll be wrapping up in just around an hour's time. Some basic things: if the candidates can have their microphones muted but cameras on, as they are at the moment, that'd be great. I'll also be muting when I'm not talking, just so you can have the floor. Any students who come in, we'll be asking them to turn their cameras off, just so again we can focus on the candidates. And we will be posting in the chat when you have 30 seconds left on any response times. Other than that, we'd appreciate it if people don't use the chat. Any questions we get should be for each candidate as a group, not for individual candidates. And all the questions we'll be asking will be for both of you. We'll be alternating who gets to go first in responses. So please be aware, I'll call on the person rather than you just unmuting, okay? Other than that, we should begin. And we just move the slides on. There we go. So we've covered all those bits. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have opening statements. So Joseph, over to you. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Joseph, and I'm a level 3 aerospace engineering student, and I'm running to be your next Disabled Students Officer. I'm running for this position to be able to give back to an area that I feel so passionate. I want to help UE disabled students through their university times and help them to gain the best achievements that they can gain. Some areas that I will be doing my best to improve in, and also to summarise my manifesto, will be in the following areas: awareness to disabilities and tackling abuse. I think everyone whom has a disability, whether hidden or visual or mental, has experienced some form of abuse or lack of awareness towards their disability in some way, shape or form. And I believe through education and awareness that we can actively take a step into removing some of the stigmas around disabilities. I also want to explore new ways of encouraging disabled students at the university through ways of encouraging photos and bringing the spotlight onto remarkable people with disabilities. I also would like to find and refine some of the ways that UE supports students, working alongside the university and to represent the student first, and to make sure that the student's wishes are represented. And I would also like to campaign to change issues which affect my disabled peers and therefore to improve their level of study. I would also like to, as an additional note, tackle some of the problems around mental health. Specifically this year with COVID-19, mental health has been pushed and stretched to its limits. According to the charity Mind, nearly 3/4 of students, that's 73% in this case, have said that their mental health has declined dramatically during lockdown. And I think the university should really take a step forwards in its mental health approach at UE. And that is one thing that I'll be looking to bring up and work with the university with. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. And opening statement from Sadie. Now you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Sadie. I am a level 2 politics and international relations student, and I am re-standing to be the SU's disability officer. I'm re-standing in the position because I want to carry on some of the amazing work that I've done with some of my peers this year, and some of that work includes we're in the process of establishing a disabled students committee to work with different UE departments. And this is to make sure that disabled students are not left out and discriminated against. As Joseph rightly said in his opening statement, students are discriminated against, and that is not right. And that is why we wanted to come up with the idea of establishing a disabled students committee to work with the university directorate, and we are currently in the process of establishing that at the moment. I've also been working with our current VP for education to make sure that all lecture materials are available, and I am pleased to say that most of the departments are making their materials electronically accessible on Blackboard, and if this isn't possible, then the library are looking to obtain electronic materials of textbooks that are needed, because obviously we've gone into block 2 teaching in January, and some of the modules started quite late, and textbooks are needed quite soon, so there is a short turnaround. So I have been on the library's back in a good way to get these done quite quickly. On the note of lesson accessibility, I'm making sure that students who aren't able to attend the workshop part of their lessons, and workshop is the key part here, through no fault of their own and not disadvantaged in any way. Currently, it's not mandatory that notes are taken or workshops are recorded for fear students of not attending or taking part in discussions. And I and many of my peers feel that this is discriminatory. So we are trying to work with what is known as the LTSEC on the University Directorate to see if there is anything we can come up with to see if we can get the vital information from the workshops to get out to the students. And I also worked with the university to make sure that disabled students are not disadvantaged during COVID-19. So that is just some of the work that I've done this year, and that's why I'm re-standing to be your disability officer. And that's
Thank you very much, Sadie. I'd just like to say thank you to both the candidates for keeping it within the time limits. Always makes my life a lot simpler. So we'll now go to some questions. We've had some submitted from various people, and some of these are for you. So first question, what would your top 3 priorities be should you be elected into the role? And we'll start with Sadie on this one.
Okay, so I've already started working on some of this. We want to change the narrative that's around that is used around disabled people. I feel the term disabled is quite not the word to use. So we come up with the phrase differently abled, because a lot of disabled people can still do the stuff that their able-bodied peers are able to do, but that's what makes them differently abled. So that's one thing that we are looking to change in the university society. I'm also looking to improve the mental health situation, but more specifically crisis provision at UE, because I know over the last probably 5 years or so that the crisis provision hasn't been that great at UE. And in my role as disability officer, I have worked with the local Member of Parliament, Jack Lepresti, and the university to see what we can do with the resources that are already there to help students that maybe have been through the system but have not found it helpful. And I think my third priority would be working with the library a lot more closely and making sure they have closer links with the faculty, because I fell into this trap at the beginning of teaching block 2, where like reading lists and that weren't communicated clearly enough. And obviously I know a lot of people on my course especially like missed out on a few weeks worth of reading because of it. So I think that would be my top 3 priorities. Obviously, there's a lot more that I could go into, but I won't do that right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Sadie. And over to you, Joseph.
Thank you very much. The 3 things that I would strive and do my very, very best to work on and improve. The first one is stigma. I don't think anyone can work at their best if they feel that they are at a diminished point among their peers. I really can't stress enough how I want to improve and develop the education that goes into disabilities, but not just for the person with disability, but for those around. Comments can very often not be meant in a difficult way, but can still have a negative effect on a person with a disability. And I would like to see more done when students come initially to a university to welcome people with disabilities in the same manner it is done with lots of other things. So I would like to see more introduction to people with disabilities and how, as a university, we can support them. I would also like, on that note of lectures, I would like it to be more defined how disabled people are to receive their how they are to receive their learning. Lectures being uploaded late, slides being unclear, spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes are all things that can make a person with a hidden disability, such as dyslexia or other disability. They're all things that can be stumbling and trip up points for a person with a hidden disability, and that needs some work to just bring it up to a level that I think is acceptable for higher education establishment, and I think UE would benefit as a whole for that. And the other is diagnosis. I myself was undiagnosed through the whole of my schooling years until I came to university. I think many people are in the same boat. With better diagnosis, there will be more people that will benefit from what we do as a disabled students officer. And I think the university will benefit, therefore, as a result. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Sadie, would you like to rebuttal? A minute?
Not rebuttal as such. I like the second point you made about the lectures. That was great. But how would you make sure they actually do it? Obviously, the university has processes and stuff. I know some of my faculty are really bad for proofreading a lot of their slides, and obviously when you go to format, I don't know if you're aware, when you go to format the slides from PowerPoint to PDF, a lot of it falls off the slide anyway. So how would you make sure that doesn't actually happen? Because obviously that is no fault of their own.
May I respond, Will?
Yes, over to you, Joseph. 1 minute.
Yeah. I'm really glad, Sadie, that we both agree on this, because when two people agree and more people agree, it recognises there is an issue. Many people with hidden disabilities are given software by the university that require lectures to be provided in a certain way. So when they're not, it takes away that disabled person's ability to be able to engage. They are also, they have set rules in timings that PowerPoint slides, for example, must be delivered. Really, it's not a matter of pointing a finger. It's a matter of working with and really just pointing out how much of a problem this causes us. And I think the university lecturers will be more than willing to help.
Thank you very much. So moving on to our next question. How did you plan on addressing the stigma around disability and in particular mental health stigma? We'll go to Joseph on this one first.
Thank you, Will. I've said a couple of times, stigma around mental health has got to go. It's outdated. It's unnecessary. I would directly help in trying to reduce and eradicate stigma of disabilities on general on campus by asking the university and working with a group of people to try and improve the education. We are an educational establishment. However, there's been very little education in the way of disabilities for people who don't get exposed to it that often. And as such an inclusive society that we are as a university, I think it would go down really well. So that's the first thing. But mental health in particular, I think many of us have acted as a support to someone during this lockdown process. And part of the reason for that is because they feel embarrassed to reach out for professional help. It just needs regular exposure of the correct truths to get rid and diminish the stigmas, the negative associations around something like mental health. It needs a tsunami of positivity to outweigh the negativity surrounding it.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Over to you, Sadie.
I would address it using my own experiences, because I have the experiences because I've gone through, in fact, I'm still in the UE wellbeing system, so I can use the information and the techniques that I've been taught to help address the stigma around mental health. As Joseph rightly said, it needs to go, because people use the word anxiety and just throw it around as if it's like a word just to be thrown around. And I'm disappointed to say that members of my own faculty have done it. And I think it's not just the students that need to be educated, it's the staff as well. So I think that, education is the way to go. And obviously we work with charities like Samaritans. We can always bring them in and do the education side of things. So I think education and workshops are the way to go.
Okay, thank you very much, Sadie. Joseph, you'd like to have a 1-minute rebuttal or response?
First off, I'm very, very glad to hear that I'm not the only one that has used the mental health services. But you mentioned that you've been sort of taught some tactics for your own health. Would you mind just delving into how you think that they could support other UE students and how you deliver that?
Yeah, I not just in UE but outside of UE as well, because I have all sorts of like mental health support. Outside of UE through the NHS, I have group therapy, and I would be happy to use the techniques that I've used through the NHS, or maybe even bring the NHS in to do group sessions and use what I've learned and be alongside the NHS maybe as a case study, for instance. Now, say like if people feel uncomfortable talking, might make it a what I'd call a friendship group session, because I'm in sessions with my friends, so we're not afraid to talk. So it's tackling it in a group setting, not a one-on-one setting, I think is always the better way to go.
Thank you very much. And again, that leads nicely on to my next question. Oftentimes, people tend to relate better to personal experiences. How would you be sharing your own personal experiences or encouraging others to do so if they felt it was suitable in a respectful manner? We'll go with Sadie first on this one.
I have actually done this in the we had a workshop on, well, not workshop, but more like a mini conference on invisible disabilities and COVID-19, and I did exactly that. And it was a conference full of people that I didn't know. Yeah, they were UE staff and students, but they were full of people that I didn't know. So they were like, they brought me on because of my job role, and I said, how can I use my experiences? So I used the mini conference as a platform to put my experience out there, and we made, as a result, I think it might have been the Vice Chancellor that said that people with underlying health conditions can apply for 5-day working extensions and do not need medical evidence to prove it, and things like that. So good things did come out of it. So using your experiences, things can come out of it. You never know unless you try.
Thank you very much, Sadie. Over to you, Joseph.
Thank you very much. Personal experience is a very, very delicate subject. I think many people with a disability have received personal circumstances that still haunt them many years later. I mean, I personally do. Education is a very trying time. There's stress, there's social dynamics, which can be very complicated, especially for people with hidden disabilities, and added sort of negative experiences on that are it can make or break someone in education. The fact that this role exists is very proof that people have had negative experiences, and therefore I believe it is our job, whomever is elected for this position, not to act as a shield between people's personal circumstances and experiences and informing people, but to act as a platform, and really the only way that negative personal experience becomes a learning curve is by embracing it and dealing with it, receiving any help that you may require from it, and then progressing and becoming better as a result. I think it's also right with personal experience that people must face the music if they've done something wrong. I think it's important for a person with a disability to see that also.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I'll just take a couple of seconds quickly to remind anyone, any students who are here, if they would like to ask a question, please digitally raise your hand. The question has to go to all the candidates. It can't be directed at any one candidate in particular. If you don't have any, that's fine. You're more than welcome just to come along and enjoy the session. We have some questions that were sent in to us beforehand. We'll keep going with those unless I see a digital hand raised. So next question we have here is, how would you address issues around a disability that you do not have personal experience with? We'll go with Joseph first for this one.
I think that's a great question, because, you know, for me, disability is a very individual experience. Disability is something that only the person with that disability truly understands how it affects their lives. it's of the utmost importance to therefore listen to the person whom is experiencing a disability, to listen to them not with the intent of immediately doing something, hearing them out, hearing their everything out, because it may not be a direct influence that is causing that person a negative effect on their education or well-being here at UWE, maybe a sort of a group of things. So really listening and then going through to a planning aspect and then to an action point. To be able to resolve a problem, the problem must be aired, heard, contemplated and acted upon, and that's how I would really sort of represent people that I can't personally say I experience their disability with.
Thank you, Joseph. Over to you, Sadie.
And that is a really good question, and one I've come across quite a few times this year already. I've always took the time to listen to people. I've had quite a few emails in my inbox this year with people saying this is what my disability is, the university doesn't understand it, what can I do? So I've always took the time to talk to these people, actually find out what their disabilities are, and 9 times out of 10 the university doesn't even know a lot about what's going on. So I had to act as a bridge between the student and the university, and sometimes I admit that can be stressful if I don't know what the disabilities are. But as Joseph said, listen, contemplate, plan, act has always been the way forward. And so you can't, if you don't understand it, then and you don't feel comfortable, you have to go out of your comfort zone in roles like this. And that's always what I've done this year.
Okay, thank you very much, Sadie. Okay, so next question. Can you give us an example of how you would go about collaborating with other part-time officers within the Students' Union? And we'll go over to Sadie first.
Oh, this is a really good question, and in my manifesto I've actually got an example already of this. I've been collaborating with our current sustainability officer because we are on a planning committee for a new halls of residence that's going to be going up on the UWE campus. And also I've been doing the disability side, I think, making sure that the estates and that are doing everything they can to make sure it's accessible. And then I've had to take the sustainable stuff in the meeting and then work with our sustainability officer to make sure that the halls of residence are going to be up to what we call passive house standard. It means it has to meet certain green credentials in order to be built. So that is one way definitely that I can think of that I worked with someone this year, and it's one way that I will probably continue to work with someone before, but in particular our sustainability officer before the block goes up.
Thank you, Sadie. Over to you, Joseph.
Collaboration's a wonderful thing. I personally really enjoy interacting with everyone at the SU. They're really helpful. So in regards to other part-time officers, I would really like to generate a strong bond with them, a strong professional bond with them. Collaboration is one of the things I personally can sometimes find difficult with my disability. However, with good networking and with good people surrounding you, and I know the SU can provide that, and they do every day, collaboration is something that would happen virtually, face to face, once we hopefully get there, and therefore we can deliver things. I also work volunteer as a student representative, where we collaborate often and talk about things, and therefore people can really action upon things. So lots of talking, lots of thinking, and then lots of acting.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Okay, so moving on, next question. We have a question from the audience. So Abby, if you'd like to unmute and ask away.
Hello, I was a little bit late joining because I was doing something, so I'm not sure if this has been asked yet. But I was just wondering if, as the disability officers, you would do anything to promote awareness of, I guess, like invisible disabilities, so like dyspraxia, dyslexia, those kind of things, because I mean, I struggle with dyspraxia myself, and in like, say, my presentations and stuff, I do really struggle, and I'm a lot slower in exams and stuff. And I don't feel like, I mean, with dyslexia, I know there's quite a lot of awareness, but dyspraxia not so much. So I just wondered if that would be something that you'd do in your role.
That's a great question. Thank you very much, Abby. Joseph, over to you first.
Hi, Abby. Thank you very much for the question. Hidden disabilities are the most prominent disability. They're the most abundant in our society. However, I think it's also the largest disability that doesn't get enough attention. Hidden disabilities can go completely undiagnosed to start with for many, many years. And it's something that I personally have struggled with. I'm sorry to hear that you have had some bad experiences around sort of presentations and that sort of thing. I think more needs to be done to inform a lecturer or a tutorial teacher about actions that need to be performed to make, I don't want to use the word easier, because there's an uphill struggle that's still happening, but more to accommodate a person with a specific disability that is invisible. And also, as I previously said, the diagnosis of hidden disabilities I believe to be key in early education. So I think more needs to be done when people arrive at university, and therefore you can offer them the help that they need.
Thanks very much, Joseph. Sadie, over to you.
No, thank you so much, Abby, for that question. I'm really sorry that you've gone through these struggles. I went through similar struggles in the first year, and of course I'm now in year 2. Obviously, I don't struggle with dyspraxia, but I do struggle with hidden disabilities that make me really fatigued and I can't speak properly. So I really, really feel for you. As Joseph said, a lot more does need to be done to make not just lecturers, but the peers aware, because a lot of presentations are done in group scenarios. So I think a lot more does need to be done to make not just lecturers, but students aware. And also, I know I have I don't know if you have a mentor, like a specialist mentor, but I would go to the mentoring service and say, is there anything we can do, like to raise more awareness across the university? Because I know we have mental health days and stuff like that. That is something I would want to raise a lot more awareness of by doing something like that and having people there who go through it, who are willing to share their experiences. So that's something I would personally do, and like if I was to continue the role.
Thank you very much, Sadie. Just to say, if you would like to ask another question, Abby, please do feel free to put your hand up again. We do have some more that have already been sent in to us, but happy to have live questions thrown at the candidates. So next question from me. Can you give us 2 examples of day-to-day university life you think could be made better and more inclusive for disabled students? And what would they be? And that is to Sadie, first of all.
Well, my first instant answer to this would be communications. I know this has been brought up many a times, like especially with the SU and across the university. As Abby said, people with dyspraxia might not be able to understand. So I know I have a hard time understanding communications that might come out from the Vice Chancellor or from my department. So communication is something that needs to be made a lot clearer for disabled students to understand. And I know it's something I've been working with my own disability officer, because I also have a disability officer, working with her on. I think another, you said 2 examples, right, if I heard you correctly, Will. The last example I think I would give is actual physical accessibility to the campus, because I know at the moment, obviously for safety reasons, campus is one way, but some students it is still hard to navigate even without that. In year 1 of my course, I had to go to the notorious Q block for some of my courses up on the top floor, and I had to go right. I don't know if anybody's been into Q block, but go right to the end of the corridor, because the first lift only goes up to level 3. So looking at timetables and see where certain lessons can be placed, so to avoid something like that happening again, because I was made aware that it would have happened again this year for the year 1s. So I don't want them to suffer the same fate that I did. So that is something that I would look at, like I said, physical accessibility on campus.
That's great. Thank you very much, Sadie. Joseph, over to you.
Thank you. 2 areas that I've already said that I would actively like to improve in daily lives of students. To start off, I think education is the primary reason that people come to a university. Secondary is obviously social and very, lots of different dynamic things going on there. However, if you can make the primary thing really, really good for people with disabilities, not only does it improve for everyone, it will thrive. It will encourage people. So the first one being lectures and lessons. I've said it before, I'll say it again. When they're not uploaded, people with disability software cannot access their software correctly. That needs to be improved. That is dire straits that is still happening at the moment, especially in a digital age that we are now currently in COVID. And the second off is understanding by lecturers and assessors. As it's been brought up in a question before, with hidden disabilities especially, more needs to be done to make it accessibly friendly to people who struggle to perform under those sorts of environments. So things like making sure that the assessor doesn't hamper a student, or an exam invigilator doesn't have an argument in someone's private room, making sure that their exam papers are printed correctly. Some of the issues there that really should be dealt with.
Thank you very much. A response from Sadie for 1 minute.
Yeah, well, it's more just a question to attach to one of your responses. Also, you mentioned about the upload of presentations. I'm going to hate to say this again, but one of my lecturers is notorious. I don't know if you're aware, DSA, they usually stay 48 to 72 hours upload for presentations. One of my lecturers has never done that in the entirety of the time that I've been at UWE, and I've had him for 2 years now. So what would you do in regards to the upload time before the lecture? Because obviously they say after the lecture, but what would you do about it before the lecture? Because I know a lot of students have it before the lecture as well.
Thank you very much, Sadie. Yeah, so to start off, you can't sort a problem until it arises. But this is a situation that I've also noticed. And I think it comes down to lecturers not actually having quite enough time necessarily in some cases. And I know during COVID, each one of the lecturers have done their very, very best. And, you know, I am incredibly grateful for that. But for people that keep doing it regularly, there needs to be some form of repercussion there, whether it comes from a little friendly chat or from their management. You know, if they have to do it, they have to do it, and it needs bringing up. It needs a conversation, not a detrimental way, but it needs addressing, and that's what I'd try and do.
Thank you very much, both of you. Just a reminder, if possible, can we not use the chat, just so we can keep on top of the 30-second reminders and things like that. More than happy to have people put their hands up and ask questions. But yeah, if we can avoid using the chat if possible, thank you. So the next question. So we've talked a number of times about on campus and doing things. Oh, actually, we'll go to Abby first.
Hello, sorry to butt in. My question was, well, Joe said that a lot of people come to university not just for the educational side, but for the social side as well. And I found it quite difficult to integrate into some societies in some instances. So is there anything that you would do to make it easier for students, perhaps with some kind of disabilities, to make it easier for them in societies?
Thank you very much for the question. So I'll go to you first, Joe.
Thank you for the question, Abby. Yeah, I personally have as well. I personally struggle with social interactions, and when you're put into a very large group of people, it can be incredibly daunting. And for people that struggle in other ways, I can only imagine how it can affect them. Going back to what I've said before, education is the only way to resolve the stigmas and sort of the difficulties around being disabled. By really making people aware, it doesn't matter then if they're the head of the society or just another person in the society. If you improve the education on a whole, the improvement will, the interaction a disabled person will then have will increase. And I'd also like to really sort of take a moment to thank people in societies for being very welcoming in most cases. But I think it's right, there needs to be a definite increase in the level of education around making people with disabilities feel welcome and giving them accessibility to these things.
Thank you, Joseph. Over to you, Sadie.
No, thanks, Abby, for that again. Great question. Again, apologies for you having these issues. That is one of the primary reasons why we are in the process of setting up a disabled students committee, so we can address these problems. So we're part of the way through that in the minute. We're just looking for expressions of interest right now. So once we get that sorted, we'll be able to start addressing these problems, especially in the university society itself. And the way I cracked it, as I actually joined physical student union societies. I became the president of the Lib Dem Society. I'm the events and fundraising officer for my academic society. I'm going to become the vice president for debating. So I just threw myself. I know not everybody has the confidence to do that, but with help from the Disabled Students Committee, we'll be able to help them into such roles like that. And I will be able to do that if I can continue I'll be able to help continue the formation of the committee.
Thank you very much, Sadie. Joseph, you want 1 minute to respond?
Thanks, Will. Cheers, Sadie. I like the idea of a committee. However, it sort of stumps me a little bit. There seems to be committee, lots of committees. But what would the disabled committee actually do? What would their aims and how would it aim to heighten the student's voice? Is that not what our role is for?
And so it's not just us, because we can't, obviously, because we as part-time officers have courses to do ourselves. We can't do the job alone. Obviously, we do have our vice presidents there, but with a committee, there's so much more we can do. So we'll be able to reach out to many more people, and we'll be able to bring their experiences in as well. So we won't be limited to just one person talking at a student union executive about what they've done, what they intend to do. That's what it for me, that's what it currently is. I want to work with so many more people, and as you say, work with other people within the university. And obviously, yeah, as you say, there's committees on committee, but for disabled students, I think this is something that we really do need in order to amplify our voices that bit more. Because I, at the moment, especially in my faculty, I feel like I'm just being silenced right now. And if we had a committee, I do think we'd be listened to at least a little bit.
Sorry to say that's your.
I'm finished now. I'm finished now.
Thank you very much, and sorry for cutting you off there. Thank you very much for that, and thank you again for the question, Abby. So moving on, I'm going to distill this down relatively simply. How would you support disabled students across Glenside and city campuses? So we'll go over to you first, Sadie.
Well, currently, obviously COVID, I have well, not advertised office hours, but I'm available, if people know, through this. What I do currently, I can meet with people on Teams. I use my emails. I've had emails come to me through the Students' Union. I've had emails through my personal emails, but pre-COVID, because I used to travel, because I commute from Somerset, I used to like take a diversion, get off at Bristol Temple Meads and actually go to the campuses from Bristol Temple Meads and then come on to Frenchay. So I took that extra time out of my day to go. This was when I was in my first year, out of my day to go to the other campuses. I've also people also forget there's Arnolfini campus as well. I've been there a couple of times to see students. I feel it's a bit more relaxing environment at Arnolfini. I say Bar Ashton I've been to meet students quite a few times. So I take that time out of my day to physically travel to these campuses if I could. But COVID times, obviously we've got our office hours. Emails come to us through the Students' Union. So okay, we're very limited to what we can do right now, which is a real shame.
Thank you very much, Sadie. Over to you, Joseph.
Thank you very much. I think the other campuses are just as important as Frenchay. If it's got disabled people there, we need to be there, and to sort of provide an ear and a resolving body to these students. You must be able to meet them face to face. I know at the moment COVID-19, we can't do that. But one thing that I was already considering doing was to not just provide a meeting time at Frenchay, but also to provide a meeting time at the other campuses, maybe once a week, depending on how much it's required. But as Sadie's already said, there's also virtual means of communicating. Through Teams, through emails, and through other means as well. You know, some people, if it's a thing that they're concerned about, might want to talk over a different mean, and I'll be open to explore those means as suggested by those people. I think it's really just a matter of getting there, getting on the ground, talking to people, finding out what can be improved and doing it.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Okay, so we are going to have a couple more questions. So Abby, if you do want to answer one, you've got a little bit more time if you do want to. But we should go. How might you look to support disenfranchised disabled students who may have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic? Okay, so we'll go to Joseph for this one.
Could you give a description of the word disenfranchised? I'm afraid with my dyslexia, my vocabulary is very limited.
Not a problem. So disenfranchised would be people who have basically, I suppose, lost hope in the system, who don't feel part of the system. Is that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. I think that's a very natural feeling that nearly every student has felt over the pandemic. As I'd already said, Charity Mind had said that 3/4 of students had experienced a decline in their mental health. I think then it's only to be expected that people feel distant from their course. I myself have felt thoroughly overwhelmed at parts of this year. And it's only by talking to your course mates and finding other ways and exploring other means to communicate and to access your learning that one can continue to do so. However, roadblocks such as lectures and tutorials not being where they should be when they're supposed to be there, i.e. online, present and correct, ready for a disabled person to access them, those are things that can get in the way. And when you're already fighting to like this, my desk is in my bedroom, I sleep over there and work over here. It can be very challenging to motivate yourself. And then when you get there and your material isn't available, you can't do anything anyway. So I think distance is to be expected, and tackle that by, as I've said before, trying to ask lecturers and improve establish a more defined programming to getting lectures and PowerPoint slides up when they should be.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Over to you, Sadie.
Yeah, same like Joseph. I know I've been disenfranchised over this year, especially when my course are making us start dissertation research right towards the end of year. Well, I'm saying teaching block of year 2, which is probably half the way through. I did an interview with ITV West Country saying that like going on the top of mental health, that this is a mental health crisis that we're going to see for quite some time. And I reckon it's one we're probably going to see for quite a few years to come. I say mental health is something that is making people become disenfranchised from their course and not making them not want to bother. I noticed this when I was helping to plan for Block 0. Then when we come to the end of it, people thought it was a waste of time. So people thought, what's the point? And a lot of people saying because it's online, I know in my year, a lot of my lectures are 3 hours non-stop. So they're like, I can't be asked to sit in my desk for 3 hours. So again, like I live in a very small flat, like about an hour from Bristol. So I would have to commute to Bristol because I live an hour away. I feel disenfranchised just by the distance from campus that I live. And I can't get to the library or anything like that for my materials. And I know quite a few people are feeling like that. I say we have been working with the university to tackle this, but I'm not sure how they are planning to move forward with it, this teaching block. We haven't heard anything as of yet.
Okay, thank you very much, Sadie. So, excellent. Abby, one more question from you.
Hello. Yeah, one more question. So I am the lead department rep at the moment, and I found out last week that there's actually an attainment gap between students that display their disability on, I think it's on Blackboard or MyUE, against those who don't display their disability. And I was thinking that this may be because of the stigma against disabilities and how like the lecturers may see that, and I was wondering if there was anything you would do to kind of get rid of this stigma.
Thank you very much, Abby. That is fairly similar to the one we had a little bit earlier around stigma.
Okay, I might have been a bit late to that.
Sorry.
That's okay, it's no problem.
I'm going to basically suggest a slightly different take on what you've just said, though.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you would do, sorry, my brain's trying to reword it in my head now, I'm just really struggling. I've lost where I was at.
Was it about
sorry.
the attainment gap?
Yes, that was it, thank you. Sorry. There is an attainment gap between students who self-define as disabled and are let the university know that they are disabled and those who don't. How would you go about reducing that gap so that everyone is on the same level? And Sadie, that's over to you.
Yeah, see, you from what I've experienced, you really wouldn't think it, but there actually is. I know, especially on my course, there is. I'm not a rep, but obviously I am an NUS rep, and I've done some research, especially in my faculty, because I'm in HAS. Right, between politics, psychology, sociology, criminology, the attainment gap is massive, and I'm like, why is this? And it's like the lecturers, I don't know why this is, but I've spoken to my program leader about this. And my program leader is really reluctant to engage with disability services. They say of course there's no done due to the pandemic, but they should also be engaging with like what I'd call and not multi-agency response in regards to the students' needs at university. And personally, I'm not getting that from my program leader right now. We've had emails going backwards and forth between my mental health services and my disability services team. My program leader has said nothing. So no wonder I'm not achieving the grades I need right now. Because I need a first to get into my master's degree, and at the moment I'm not reaching those grades right now. So I think it's a reluctance of some program leaders to engage with the disability services, which really shouldn't be the case. But that's something I really want to crack down on, having seen it from my own personal experience in my program.
Thank you very much, Sadie. And Joseph, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, just a couple of fact bombs for this question. 31,000 people, 877 people were enrolled at UE in 2019. Using the data that mine gave, that means that 23,270 people had a problem with their mental health. And that means that there are a significant number of people that aren't coming forward, that they're struggling. So this is a problem that needs to be addressed. Looking at some more data, good honours for the 2018-19 that UE released this information. I encourage you to go and look it up. 73.5% of disabled people attained a good honours, and 79.9%, so 80% of non-disabled people received good honours. There is a deficit there. It is clear. It is there statistically. So education will bring this back. The deficit that is between people that have a disability and are open about it and people that don't have it is very, very large. This needs to be reduced. And the only way it will be reduced is by increasing education about what a disability is. The fact that, as Sadie said in earlier on in this meeting, it's not necessarily always a disability. Very often it is an ability. Disabilities aren't negative, and I think by educating people when they get to university, that can tackle that issue. In regards to lecturers and how they perceive it, this goes back to things like lecture slides not being up in time. It's not important to them. It needs to become important to them. And I feel, again, education, working with the university, they're things that can address that problem.
Thank you very much, Joseph. And again, Abby, thank you very much for the question. We're going to give the candidates an opportunity to have their closing statements now, as we are literally just about to tick over to 6 o'clock. Sorry, there goes my alarm to say it's 6 o'clock. Perfect timing. So yeah, basically we have 3 minutes to make a closing statement each, and we're going to start with Joseph. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I'll keep it brief because we don't need to overcomplicate the situation. Awareness of disabilities, tackling abuse, encouraging UE disabled students that we already know about, and finding and supporting all disabled students at UE through means that we don't necessarily already do, and things that we do already do but we can make better. Discovering people that do not know that they currently have a disability is very high on my priority list, because as I've just said with the statistical data that I shared with you, and I'll drop that in the chat after this if anyone would like to check me on it, more people have a disability than come forwards. So stigma, as I said, tackling abuse and making awareness, there are things that need to be tackled, and I will do that. So if you want those things addressed, then I should have your vote.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Over to you, Sadie. Final comments.
So likewise, I'll keep this brief. I really loved the role that I've had over the last year, and so the only way that I can keep going is if people want the things like mental health support, continued disability support, and someone that will vouch for them on the student union executive and at the NUS. So that is the only way that they'll get someone that will continue to vouch for them.
Thank you very much, Sadie. I'd just like to thank you both for your time today, and Abby as well for coming in and asking the questions, and the students who sent us questions previous to this as well. This recording will be going up onto YouTube sometime tomorrow, and it will be linked through on our main page of our website. There is a candidate question time article that all the question times will be linked through to. So thank you again all for your time, and yes, that is the end.